The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
WSAU, we continue feedback this Thursday morning. We've been waiting for this date, the 19th of May, to get a chance to talk with the New York Times best-selling author, also a columnist for WorldNet Daily, author of several books, and his most recent book might be the one with the most controversy behind it. Where's the Birth Certificate? The case that Barack Obama is not eligible to be president, by Dr. Jerome Corsi. And, of course, you might remember the author of Obama Nation, another one that is, I'm sure, high on the list for the Obama administration. But you can go to Amazon.com, to the WorldNet Daily store, places like that, to purchase this book, which I believe is up to 17 now on Amazon, and maybe Jerry can correct us on that. Boy, good morning.
Great to be back with you, and looking forward to the interview.
Well, let's talk about this. When the president came out with his long-form birth certificate, and Donald Trump trying to take credit for that, and I know that the book was coming out and announced by Drudge, that might have helped spur it along, but didn't that end all the controversy about the birth certificate?
Well, the administration hoped it would. It was first of all, sales only increased, orders only increased. The book is going to be a bestseller. And it had always been my plan, titling the book, Where's the Birth Certificate, to force the hand of the administration to try to see if I could get them to release this long-form birth certificate, because I knew that if they did, it had to be fraudulent. But now Barack Obama is committed to it.
Now, see, you got Tom All, and he's not alone. Tom.
I wasn't even going to engage today, because I think it's sad, Jerry, that you keep this alive to make a few bucks off the delusional birthers out there.
Well, Tom,
has this book been moved to the fiction section yet of the bookstore?
Ridicule is a great strategy, Tom, and I applaud you for it.
Well,
so
thank you
very much.
I'm not the only one. I mean, even some of the mouthpieces on Fox are saying that these theories have been debunked.
In other words, you've got authorities to cite who have also ridiculed, so it justifies your ridicule tactic.
So let's go back to the birth certificate, Jerry. What makes this a false document?
Well, first of all, if reading the book, and I think the attack on the book is because the administration cannot afford for people to read this book, makes it absolutely clear that Obama was not born in Hawaii. Notice, by the way, that when the long-form birth certificate was released, it was not in an original copy form. It was not submitted for forensic examination. An electronic copy and a Xerox were released, which would never be considered the best evidence of that document in a court. Secondly, when Kapiolani was identified as the hospital, the patient records of Ann Dunham were not released. I've been told for 3 years they don't exist, and they can't be forged. I went to Kapiolani Hospital last week to ask to see the Ann Dunham patient records, and the hospital said if I didn't vacate the premises immediately, they were going to have me arrested. I was just there to ask a few questions. I would think if it were really the birth hospital, they'd have a little plaque and a demonstration of it in the lobby, instead of hiding away documents and threatening to arrest anybody who wanted to ask questions. And third, it's convenient that the doctor is dead, but there was no attempt made, but you noticed, by the White House to go into his records and to produce patient records again for Ann Dunham. So the release of this document is, to me, suspect. And as I point out in the Abomination, in this current book, Where's the Birth Certificate, the life story, the nativity story that Barack Obama has told is a lie, and I've demonstrated it in terms of the mother and father staying together in Hawaii. Ann Dunham, within 3 weeks of the baby being born, left altogether and went to the University of Washington in Seattle, and she stayed there till Barack Obama left. I've got the transcript. Take a look at the exhibits beginning in Exhibit 80 on page 199. 125 pages of exhibits in this book and a glossy middle section, going all the way through Exhibit 87, which is the home in which she rented an apartment, Ann Dunham and Barack Obama Sr. never lived together as man and wife. There is no marriage certificate. Ann Dunham had 6 months missing in her timeline in which she was not in Hawaii. And I've now got the Kenyan documents and discussed in the book, and I'm beginning to release the actual documents where the Kenyan government, where Ann Dunham went to have the baby was Kenya. She went alone, not with Barack Obama. And the Kenyan government affirms that they have been looking. The grandmother, Sarah, has been saying not once but many times she was President Obama's birth in Mombasa. And I've got a government has concluded their investigation, and the result is that 1961 birth records in Kenya, the government concluded, have been criminally altered, not in a random way, but with a systematic attempt to destroy Obama birth records. So even the Kenyan government has reason to suspect that Obama was born in Kenya. And as I say, if all the evidence is in Hawaii, but it's going to be very difficult to corroborate and substantiate this supposed long-form birth certificate that was released by the White House on April 27th.
Well, now, Jerry, there was a lot of talk why he didn't release it before was because he was getting some pretty good political bounce, people thinking that, this was a conspiracy and things, and it wasn't until the polling started showing people actually doubting it, so that's why he put it up. Would this come back again as your book comes out to maybe actually help him again, or what do you think?
Well, I think as people read this book and really sort through the evidence, instead of just trying to prevent the book from being read and ridiculing it like Tom did a few minutes ago, or Esquire saying the book had been withdrawn, which was a complete lie.
Yeah. Wow.
But again, that indicates, I think, a concerted effort coming from the White House to try to destroy the book and prevent people from reading it. I think it's going to backfire. I think it's only going to make people say, what's in this book, where's the birth certificate, that is so damaging to Obama that he can't tolerate the risk that someone might actually read it and take it seriously.
When they do read it, and if they read your books from before as well, you document everything you have and you've found.
Well, it says there's 125 exhibits here, and the exhibits show you to read yourself and to examine yourself what I'm writing about, including the Ann Dunham passport records from Indonesia, Exhibit 100 on page 215, when Barack Obama was a child in Indonesia, and Ann Dunham removed him from her passport, crossing out the name, saying Barack Obama Soy Barca, putting in his Indonesian surname and suggesting that he was adopted. See, separate lines of analysis are that Barack Obama is not eligible to be president under Article 2, Section 1, because he was a dual citizen. Not even the question of whether he was born in Hawaii. That's a separate line of analysis. But if he was, in fact, he was a dual citizen from his father, who was a Kenyan citizen when he was born, which made Barack Obama a dual citizen of the United States from his mother and the Commonwealth of Great Britain. Kenya was a Commonwealth country in 1961. Now, the founders clearly never intended a dual citizen to be a natural-born citizen, and it was specifically to prevent someone who had citizenship ties to Great Britain from being president that Article 2, Section 1 was written.
Now, the 14th Amendment would disagree with you on that. And
Amendment,
a lot of legal precedents since then would disagree with you.
Well, Tom, I'm going to disagree with you again. The 14th Amendment does not redefine natural-born citizen, and the reaching for it right here,
all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside.
Tommy may be a citizen, but he's not a natural-born citizen. It's a subset of citizen. The definitive case is Minor v. Happersett, 1874, which set the terms of what natural-born citizen is, and it was 2 U.S. citizen parents at the time of birth born in the United States. Even the resolution for John McCain, co-sponsored by Obama, saying John McCain was a natural-born citizen, specified the qualification that John McCain had 2 U.S. citizen parents at birth, and Obama co-sponsored that resolution.
United States v. Wong Kim Ark, upheld in 2009 by the Indiana Court of Appeals, cited that persons born within the borders of the U.S. are natural-born citizens for Article 2, Section 1 purposes, regardless of the citizenship of their parents.
Tom,
Yep.
that was not in the, that was in the dicta. It was a musings by a judge. It was not part of the decision. The decision, dicta in cases, are when judges go off and philosophically discuss issues. That judge was basing the argument on English common law, and English common law does not apply in U.S. law. So it has never been accepted, that principle, the Wong principle, has not been accepted as a redefinition of natural-born citizens.
A 2009 Congressional Research Service report prepared specifically to address the question of Obama's eligibility concluded that, quote, the weight of scholarly, legal, and historical opinion appears to support the notion that natural-born citizen means one who is entitled under the Constitution or laws of the U.S. to U.S. citizenship at birth or by birth.
Tom, that's a Congressional Research Service opinion.
Well, I'm just saying that the decisions keep
Tom,
piling up here.
It's an argument that's being made that the 14th Amendment redefines natural-born
Well, you're
citizen.
making an argument that you're defining what the Founding Fathers were thinking.
I'm saying it does not, and that point ought to be debated by the American people, realizing that Barack Obama was a dual citizen at birth. That issue was never sharply and directly presented to the American people. It was with regards to John McCain, because the Democrats and the mainstream media pushed it. If you would look at the book, Tom, I do have 15 exhibits at the beginning of the book in which the Democrats pushed that very argument against John McCain. And John McCain brought his birth qualifications to Congress, and Congress passed a resolution specifying the need to have 2 U.S. citizen parents. And Barack Obama co-sponsored that resolution for John McCain and refused to submit to a similar examination of his birth credentials himself.
Let's get a couple of calls. We're talking again with Dr. Jerome Corsi, the New York Times best-selling author, whose new book just out, Where's the Birth Certificate? The Case That Barack Obama is Not Eligible to Be President. Heidi, good morning.
Hello. Dr. Corsi, I just want to say I think everything that you're doing is amazing, and you just have to ignore Tom. I do, every day.
Well,
I just want to say your book is amazing, and I have 3 of them, so I will give Tom one for you.
Well, thank you very much. Send it to me. I'll sign it for Tom.
Oh, there you
Great.
go.
Okay,
There you go.
all right.
So, did you have a question, Heidi, or?
No, he's just my favorite author, so I just wanted to say that.
All right. Well, thanks, Heidi. Let's get Tom in here. Another Tom. Thanks for holding, Tom.
Thank you for taking my call. A question for Jerome. Jerome, isn't possibly part of the controversy, and you probably know this more than I or have an idea, Barack Obama's father, isn't it the possibility, or Frank, isn't it Frank Wright or somebody that, do you understand where I'm thinking or going there?
No, I'm not. You're going to have to go a little further. I'm not sure where you're headed.
I think that Wright was his mentor there in Hawaii.
Oh, you're talking about Frank Marshall Davis.
I'm sorry, yes. Frank Marshall Davis is really Barack Obama's father, I believe, and I think that's where all of this hang-up is coming, and that's my own.
Well, that's
all right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
That has not been established, and I mean, I think there could be questions raised. It was pretty clear that Ann Dunham and Barack Obama Sr. did not formally marry. No marriage license has ever been found. And Barack Obama at the time was running out of his visa to stay in the United States. It expired on August 8, 1961, right about the time the baby was born. And Barack Obama, from the INS papers we now have, is pretty clear, it was convenient to him to have had a wife and a child in the United States. The INS ultimately dismissed the marriage as one of convenience. They never lived together as man and wife. As I said, Ann Dunham, within 3 weeks of the baby being born, left Hawaii altogether, was in Seattle. She never returned until Barack Obama left the islands. And the INS, in fact, Barack Obama Sr. in his INS papers quit referring to Ann Dunham as a wife or acknowledging the child. So the marriage was one of convenience. But if, in fact, Barack Obama Sr. was the father, it does establish that Obama is a dual citizenship, a citizen at birth, and raises the argument Tom and I got into as to the constitutionality of that under Article 1, Section 2. If there's someone else as a father, that's going to raise a whole other set of circumstances, but it has not been proved.
You know, as we focus in on this and his eligibility, will this allow him to do the things in your Abomination book? You know, as we're kind of pulled away looking at this, that kind of like a magician, the other hand is continuing to ruin the country? What are you laughing about, Tom?
I think it's, you know, the focus of where is the birth certificate is really on the eligibility issue. And it's on the issue of looking at the facts of the birth circumstance and the facts of other parts of Obama's life that impact eligibility, and making the point and proving that Barack Obama has lied fundamentally about his nativity story and has refused to release other documents, including till today. We don't have Barack Obama's passport records. We don't have his travel records. We don't even have a complete list of all the countries Barack Obama has been in. We don't have his school records to know if he applied for aid as a foreign student. I devote a whole appendix to listing the many documents of Barack Obama, including his kindergarten records, that we do not have.
Wow. Let's get Joe in here. Joe, good morning.
Good morning. I just have a fundamental, rudimentary question, I guess, is we're talking about eligibility and status when running for president. Who actually, or is there a board, or who actually determines his eligibility, and if you would inform the listeners on that process? Because it seems like
they dropped the ball.
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem like there's much of a process at all.
Right,
it just seems like it's an afterthought, and go, oh, wait a minute, maybe we should see if this person's actually eligible.
All right, Joe, thanks.
Excellent question. In fact, to go back to the Congressional Research Service that Tom cited as authority, Exhibit 124 of the book, page 234, the legislative attorney for the Congressional Research Service did a report April 3, 2009, and concluded there's a loophole in the Constitution. The Constitution specifies, Article 2, Section 1, the president has to be a natural-born citizen. More restrictive, a subset of citizen. A citizen alone is not enough. But yet the Constitution assigns no institution of government the authority and the responsibility to make the determination if a candidate for president is a natural-born citizen. As I say, after John McCain was attacked very hard and for many months by the Democrats and the mainstream media because he was born in the Canal Zone, John McCain took his birth credentials to Congress. Barack Obama co-sponsored the resolution that decided that John McCain was a natural-born citizen. Barack Obama refused to go through a similar examination himself. No one vetted Obama's credentials. In fact, I've got in here when the Democratic National Committee submitted the request that the name be placed on the ballot, Nancy Pelosi signed a whole series of state-by-state requests for the name to be on the ballot, and did not provide to any state the birth credentials to examine at the state level of Barack Obama. So it was never vetted. And one of the main points and conclusions of the book is that we need to remedy this by either having a state mechanism or a federal mechanism instituted so that all future candidates have a procedure to go through in which their birth credentials are officially vetted and done so in a professional manner so we can avoid this kind of a crisis in the future.
You know, the Obama re-election campaign, they have taken off on this, and I guess they have a T-shirt now out there with a long-form birth certificate and Obama's face that says "Made in the USA." Does that surprise you?
No, I mean, it's in a sense a little bit of trivializing of the issue, but it's the kind of merchandising, marketing of Obama and his image and all the other characteristics of Obama that, you know, the 2008 campaign did successfully. I'm not sure it will succeed equally because we're not in the hope and change euphoria of 2008.
What about as far as the pressure? I know that they tried to get with Esquire and put in that false story on, they said was a satire. Have there been any other pressure put on outside that's maybe even more than when you wrote Abomination?
Well, I think the increasing pressure on the press, the White House is letting media know that if the book is covered, there will be consequences. I think one of the reasons Fox has backed off so strong, and I did an interview with Greg Jarrett on Fox Business last night. Media Matters is running it. First time I saw Media Matters praise Fox, I felt like I was on MSNBC being questioned by Chris Matthews.
What does that tell you?
It tells me that Fox has been pressured by the White House that they will be not given access to White House, including the president, if Fox dares cover the story, because the White House knows.
Like Fox cares what the White House thinks about
Well, Tom,
anything. With
well,
the people
come on,
they put on,
Tom.
with the people
They
put on
want to
the
get
air.
to the White House.
Tom, let me make the point. I think the White House is so deathly afraid of this book. They know that if the American people read this book and understand what's in it, the Obama presidency will not survive. And that's why the White House is running a full-court press against the book, including releasing the long-form birth certificate, in which the White House has. Why wasn't that document released 3 years ago if it existed? Why did we go through all of this nonsense about the short form if that document was in fact not just made in the last 10 days?
So you believe that the birth certificate that was released by the White House is a forgery?
Correct. That's what I said. I intend to prove it.
All right. Well, again, folks, Amazon.com is the place to go, or WorldNet Daily, their superstore. The book, Where's the Birth Certificate? The case that Barack Obama is not eligible to be president, by Dr. Jerome Corsi. And I know folks can follow you on Facebook, too, I think, can't they?
Yes, I'm on Facebook. I've been reasonably active with the Facebook page. And then also WND, WorldNet Daily, where I'm a senior staff reporter and continuing to write on this story as issues develop and new information comes forward.
All right. Always good to talk with you again, Jerry, and watch your back there. You take care, all right?
Thanks, Pat. Great pleasure to be with you and Tom today.
All right. Bye-bye. WSAU, as that is our Thursday edition of Feedback. News is coming up next.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.